and welcome to this very special interview. Joining me today is one of India's best legal minds, top corporate lawyer and managing partner at Luthra and Luthra. Rajiv Luthra joins me. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us here on Bloomberg TV. So my first question to you, how do you see the state of the country right now? I'm talking from a very economic, business confidence point of view. Is it one of the worst that you've ever seen in your long career?
I would say more or less, yes. I would say, of course, the early 90s was probably a tad worse. But after having seen all this growth and seen all this positiveness and seen all these good things that India did in a very short period and turn around, I mean, from a $250 billion economy to come to a $2 trillion economy as a democracy has always been an impossibility in the rest of the world, but we've done it. But what's happening now is that, you know, I'm a very proud Indian and I'm a true optimist and I really believe in utopia, even though I shouldn't, but I do. My own sense is that all these years of creating defense from thin air, trained as a lawyer, I really had very little defense left for India when I traveled overseas. Recently, I'm on the council of the City of London as an advisor. 5 days ago I was there. I mean, it was almost embarrassing that we had to answer questions. We had to field kind of sentiments that were totally negative. Maybe all of them not totally factual, but it was a pretty bad beating. Of course, we did argue. I mean, we're trained lawyers, so we argued the matter, and we did, I think, get our way, and a few claps in the end. But having said that, I'm still very optimistic on the way the country is going.
Where do you think we went so wrong? According to you, 2 or 3 areas where you think we just slipped up as a country?
I think a couple of things that we went wrong in. One is this whole coalition politics, which I think too much of dependence was based on that. I guess they had to. That was a par for the course, and the powers that be know best. But as far as I'm concerned, that policy paralysis we had for almost about 1.5 years or 2 years was one big issue. The second big issue was very high level of judicial activism. Whether we need that or no, or needed that or no, is a separate question. My view is we needed that, but the pendulum swung the other way, which normally happens. You can't hold the inertia, and that's again the price you have to pay for it. And that has put the fear of God in the whole system. So basically, it's the judiciary that put the fear. It is the CBI, the 3 Cs, the CAG, and the CVC. So everybody just stopped doing whatever they were doing. Even the braver ones just said, why the hell for? So that's what happened to India. I think that's where it all went wrong. And we were too, I think a bit of arrogance and complacency had also set in. So all this put together and happened to happen at the same time. I mean, they say it doesn't rain, it always pours, and that's what happened to us, I think.
Let me try and break this answer into certain pockets. Let's start first with global investors. And I want to turn to what I feel was the time that turned out to be the turning point, which was the retrospective amendment, followed by GAR, which of course we retracted. The retrospective amendment, we did that. We were criticized by pretty much every global investor. We came back and we said we will sort this out, and we know what's happening. You know, there are negotiations going on. Is that something that came up repeatedly when you say, and someone as optimistic as you, if I know you well, to feel embarrassed is saying a lot, Mr. Luthra? Was it the taxation issue? And we continue to see these transfer pricing, tax demands being slapped. We've had the Supreme Court say that go easy, you know, conduct yourself in a proper manner. We've had standing committees of parliament castigating the tax authorities. Are these, would you say, the 2 big pillars which saw the turning point as far as global investors are concerned? We'll come to the domestic concerns.
Yes. If you look at the history of liberalization in India right from 91 and you try to make a graph, you will see that almost every political formation in this country has been in power directly or indirectly for all these years. And we've had almost as many prime ministers as years that have gone by, or maybe a little bit less. But you will see the graph is either upwards or at best for a few years flat, but never downwards till 3 years ago. That downward trend that started, I think I was trying to figure out why. Why did the income tax department suddenly get so charged up? Here's my analysis. I won't say the people in the tax department. My own sister actually was part of the revenue service, so I know a lot of people. My uncles were, etc. I know a lot of people in the revenue service, brilliant human beings, but not the extra brilliant ones, not the IITians, not doctors, proper medical doctors, who've now tended to join the MBAs from IIM Ahmedabad, are now members of the Indian Revenue Service. So they have, they think a little outside the box too, and they try and create things. That was one aspect. Coupled with that, the department, in their wisdom, decide to send out letters to all the commissioners, that's the chairman of the Central Board of Direct Taxes, that you, my friend, will collect so many thousand. You did 400 crores, for example, last year. This year you have to collect 450 crores. And this is non-negotiable. Apparently that's what the letter said. And that's what I was told. Now, to me, an income tax commissioner who's an assessing commissioner is actually like a judge. It's like a chief justice of a court telling his brother judges that you will give 15 hangings this year. You will give 25 hangings this year because you are in a, your jurisdiction belongs to a Sharia. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can say you will do 5,000 cases this year. Now, what is the outcome of that? That should be as per law. That then coupled with this whole sort of push to collect revenue at all costs has created this whole negative environment where people are coming totally things outside the box. Brilliant in some ways. I won't say they weren't brilliant. This Vodafone case, for example. It was a technically easily solvable case. But look what it did. Just because one stupid form hadn't been filed before, the department took value of that and built it. Look, I read somewhere else in the papers the other day that 94% of the total taxes due in this country are owed by 12 people. Now that makes no sense to me. So for that 6%, if you're going to go after and create such a negative sort of, it just doesn't work.
So would you say global investors, both the long-term FDI investors as well as FIIs, in the conversations that you have with them, is this what keeps coming up? That we thought India is a country, a democratic country, where the rule of law prevails. It was almost like a dividend that we used to have over some other comparable countries, that we have an independent judiciary, etc. Is that something that has got severely dented? What are they telling you? Are they even looking at investing in India?
See, again, coupled with the world, so you have to look at it holistically. If the rest of the world was going gung-ho and they were doing, 5-7% growth in their GDPs, I don't think these would be blips. Because they themselves are inward looking, so they are finding some good excuses not to come to India as well. But that doesn't mean that we have not given them reason for it. See, nobody likes uncertainty. Now, it's not that American law is fully certain or British law is fully certain. It's not. I mean, recently England has put this silly tax on housing. You owned a house there for 20 years. Suddenly now, I mean, I'm just simplifying it, but suddenly now they want to collect estate duty while you're alive on that property. I mean, it just doesn't make it. They're doing it. It's not, they're doing it. You own the house, now you can't sell it. If you sell it, you end up paying stamp duty, or you end up paying this so-called duty, tax that you have to pay every year, for which you didn't do all these years in the past. So that does happen. We, in our case, have amended things going back to 61 and made a stupid sort of situation out of it, because by law you can't go back more than 6 years anyway. So, we could have done a little more marketing of this, could have been done a little bit better, and things could have been much easier. That's what I think.
Dreams, I'm always dreaming you dreams. Dreams. always dreaming you dreams. They do come true, it seems. Always follow my dreams.
We help you grow, fulfill your dreams. South Indian Bank. Experience. Next generation banking.
आप यहाँ आए किस लिए? आपने बुलाया इसलिए। आए हैं तो काम भी बताइए। पहले जरा आप मुस्कुराइए। आप यहाँ आए किस लिए?
भारतीय एक्सा ने बदला है जीवन सुरक्षा का नजरिया अपनी डेडिकेटेड क्लेम्स हैंडलर से।
अब आपके क्लेम सेटलमेंट प्रोसेस को सरल बनाने में हम आपकी सहायता करेंगे।
तभी तो एक्सा दुनिया के बेहतरीन इंश्योरेंस कंपनियों में से एक है। अब डेडिकेटेड क्लेम्स हैंडलर की सुविधा नए सिक्योर इनकम प्लान पर भी उपलब्ध है। भारतीय एक्सा, जीवन सुरक्षा का नया नजरिया।
गाड़ी तो अच्छी है, पर एक सेकंड ओपिनियन लेते तो।
See that? First opinion, second opinion. Over 6 lakh owners.
Let's turn to the last 1 year when clearly there was a sense of energy that came from the government in terms of the policy paralysis. But even then, Mr. Luthra, let's look at the announcements. FDI in retail, FDI in aviation, you talk of FDI in pharma, and if I were to pick up each of these three, FDI in retail, a year down the line, nothing's come. People are scared. I don't think anyone really wants to come the whole hog and put in money, and I want your views on that because I'm sure you're advising many of them. Look at FDI in aviation. Today the question mark being raised before the courts is that whether at all even that policy is clear in what it seeks to convey. FDI in pharma, we've put out a story recently that again there is this whole talk that you want to force people to say, look, you must spend 20% in R&D. It's being discussed, it's not final. The point I'm making, in short, is that isn't even today somewhere we haven't learnt our lesson on the clarity bit. That come clean, come clear with what you have to say, and then you're likely to get people to invest.
Let's look at FDI. Let's start with FDI, multi-brand retail. While it's a sensible policy, my personal opinion, while I think India needs it, again my opinion, when the policymakers made this policy the first time around, my first question is, did they discuss this with their coalition partners? Answer to that clearly, everybody knows, is no. It wasn't discussed with Mamata Banerjee, therefore she went against it later. They could have had a confabulation before. I mean, most countries in the world where you have coalitions, you first take everybody on board and then you go and make the announcement. Secondly, surely they are, I mean, not surely, but they are brilliant bureaucrats in our government, brilliant politicians in our country. Surely when they announce a policy like this, they can look at all the ramifications of it. For example, in multi-brand retail, you need a large plot of land because you can't go and buy an existing shop as per the policy. Now, how many tracts of large pieces of land are there in urban India? Hardly any. So where do you go? You go outside the urban area, which is agriculture. Foreigners are not allowed to invest in agricultural land. Now, couldn't somebody have seen this, amended FEMA, and said, for the purposes of multi-brand retail, you can go ahead and buy agricultural land. Foreigners can invest for this particular purpose, in case you want to protect the agriculture sort of industry. Similarly, look at pharma. You have a policy. Government of India has announced the policy. Policy is you can invest in pharma 100% provided you get FIPB approval. That's the policy. Recently, there was a big hullabaloo in the press that there was these few companies into billions of dollars who want to bring into India, and they put it into abeyance. Why? Because Government of India had decided to rewrite the policy. But surely they have to understand that when you look at buying a company, you start 6 to 8 months before you hit the FIPB level. That 8 months, the extent policy was ABC, lawyers were involved, bankers are involved, consultants were involved, and they found a target, they did due diligence, they're doing all of this. Then they finally go to the finals, and they find that we are in abeyance because a policy is going to be made. We don't know what the policy is. It's going to be made, now let's wait for that to happen. But those kind of things are crazy, in my view. That's not going to help this clarity in the system. Aviation, same story.
It's about a comma now.
Yeah.
How do you interpret
Exactly.
the comma?
How do you interpret that? Why can't we have a kind of a select committee, which is RBI, DIPP, FIPB, and the administrative ministry together, and maybe the law ministry? Let's look at all the various issues this thing raises. Maybe the national security advisor, maybe, I don't know. I mean, we'll need to just figure that out. And have a select committee which looks at all the factors. Maybe have outside lawyers, have business lawyers who can give their perspective, maybe as invitees, or even chartered accountants. And once they've done that, then make the policy which is holistic, which is doable. But here we are just announcing policies, looks like for the sake of announcing it. I don't think that's what it is, but that's how it seems. So when an investor comes in, he's stuck with all these different problems that he can't get his arms around in the right sort of way, and then we get a bad name. And that sort of spreads like fire. It's you know, that's the problem.
Let me turn to Indian businesses now. You talked about the 3 C's, you talked about a sense of a fear psychosis that seems to have gripped India Inc. How serious is that?
I think it's very serious. I think if you look at the Indian companies, and somebody used to take the top 50 odd companies and look at their balance sheets, they're flushed with cash. Most of them, if you look at their own directors' reports, etc., you'll pick up that hardly any investments are being done in India. Hardly any, compared to the earlier years. But they are investing. They're investing in China, they're investing in Australia, they're investing in Indonesia, they're investing in Africa, they're investing in Brazil, even America, even Europe. So, but not India. So obviously there's something which sends a totally wrong message to the rest of the world. Of course, there could be some very good reasons to invest in Europe. There's very low valuations right now, great technology there. Automotive industry, let's take that as an example. Today we have some very, very good auto ancillary companies in India, but may not be with the greatest of technologies. Those companies are for the asking today, let's say in Germany, Austria, or elsewhere. It's picked up by the Indian company, the investment has been, and they're very cheap. And they've got the technology, you've got the already recognized OEM for, let's say, the BMWs or the Mercedes of this world. Now they're manufacturing in India. It's, you know, it's a no-brainer. So like that stuff is happening, but not so much investment in India. And I mean, I don't have the exact figures, but that's my sense. I feel there's a huge war chest also with our PSUs, also with the private companies in India, and that's remaining sort of uninvested locally.
Courtroom, the compact SUV from Mahindra.
बिजनेस के लिए क्या अच्छा है, किसको फोन करना है, किसको पार्टनर बनाना है, ये सब जानते हैं. लेकिन जब सर्विस टैक्स की बात होती है तो बिल्कुल ही अनजान. क्या बात कर रहे हैं? हमें भी भरना है. अब भरना है कि नहीं भरना है, यही टाइम है पता लगाने का. क्योंकि अभी चल रहा है सर्विस टैक्स VCES. तो पता लगाइए और भरिए अपना सर्विस टैक्स बिना किसी इंटरेस्ट या पेनल्टी के. चाहे तो इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में भी भर सकते हैं आप. अब अनजान मत बनिए. सर्विस टैक्स भरें और एक नई शुरुआत करें.
VCES, सर्विस टैक्स भरिए, नई शुरुआत करिए.
The mood of the nation is always in tandem with Sensex. I am Ketan Marwadi and have been associated with BSE since 1990. Come, feel the financial pulse of the nation.
S&P BSE Sensex, India's index, the world tracks.
Do you see the next big sector where a lot of litigation could take place could be in the banking space? Because again, we hear that there are a lot of concerns on NPAs while certain numbers are disclosed as per the reporting guidelines, but actually the stress in the system is far more deeper. Is that an empirical evidence that you would also have in terms of the fact that we've already seen a few litigations around FCCBs, we've started seeing public notices under SARFAESI being issued. Is that one area, according to you, which seems like a ticking debt bomb, if I may call it?
I think so. I think companies are highly over-leveraged and our interest rates are actually killing. There are a number of good companies in this country who have their debt service is greater than their bottom line. So those are all disaster situations unless they very quickly restructure and very quickly reduce leverage. Litigation in this area is bound to grow if this scenario continues. The only unfortunate part is that you need to represent the party with the money. If you don't represent the party with the money, the litigation, in my view, is no point as a lawyer. Because work and no pay makes Jack a dull boy.
But in your long career, Mr. Luthra, have you ever seen a phase where litigation has been so rampant? And do you see this trend continuing, given all that you and I have discussed over the last half hour?
I think this trend will continue for quite a while. And I don't want to say that, but thank God for small mercies. And that's only from my professional standpoint. But as a citizen, I don't think that's a great idea. I don't think... see, in litigation, the solution is... This litigation only creates good quality jobs for lawyers. It really doesn't do very much else. I would say 80% of the litigation. The benefits to either party who are litigating is very minimal compared to the benefit to the lawyers. Now, yes, I mean, I'm part of the community, I'd like to build them more. But I think on balance, if we can make frivolous litigation go away, or just for the sake of litigation, for example, if I win an appeal before the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, it's bound to go to the High Court. If I win in the High Court, it's bound to go to the Supreme Court. Why? Because the officer who's going to say, no further appeal required, he'll probably have a CBI inquiry against him the next year, the CVC inquiry against him. So why should he take the risk? Let it all go till the top. Let the top court decide. I mean, off record, I've had people tell me, sir, you have a very great case, but sorry, we'll have to go to Supreme Court for it. And there's no other way we can do anything else. I mean, for example, why can't the see today, 55 to 60% is what I'm told, the litigant is government on one side or the other. Now, if government were to make a rule, say, if there were just three thoughts. If government was to make a rule that any litigation which is not a question of law, but a question of fact, over, let's say, under a crore of rupees, has to stop at the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal level. Any matter which is over, let's say, 10 crores, or under 10 crores has to stop at the High Court level, if the commercial value is that. And over that you go to the Supreme Court. Look at the cases that will fall away. Rest of the cases must be withdrawn, depends on which side they are on. Never mind government wins or loses. Normally they lose anyway. So, or they never get paid, or people get bankrupt, etc. Anyway. Second thing is corruption. That's a big ticket item. I mean, the strategy is that you do a corrupt act, and normally you do the corrupt act when you're 55 or 60. It takes about 40 years to go through the cycle of finally getting convicted by the time you're dead and gone, and the law doesn't apply on your heirs. So you're out of it. They should do a simple, this is an executive order, it doesn't even need change in legislative law or anything, that there should be a daily hearing for all matters concerning a politician, a bureaucrat, or a uniform person. Logic is, these are your protectors. If they've done something wrong, let there be a daily hearing. And 6 months, 8 months, we've had situations in the past where we've had judgments in 6 months, 8 months. Similarly, then we can look at the rape matters, we can look at the other things that are troubling our society, and similarly build on that. Of course, we need to get many more judges. We need to have probably night courts. We need to, all of this needs to have a proper sort of look at and build. Once we do this rule of law thing actually working, there will be a sea change in our system. Yes, we have a great set of laws. Yes, we have a great judiciary, and I have a lot of faith in it. But the problem is delayed justice. We do eventually, there was a survey done, I can't remember which organization, but some credible one in the US, that 69% of the Americans or Europeans who'd fought cases in India were more than satisfied. More than satisfied. But they had to go to the Supreme Court level with the quality of the judgment. So that's saying quite a lot. And of course, for the other country, we don't have to name it, everybody knows it. That was not the case at all. It was like 16% or 12%.
So there is hope, you're saying?
No, there is. See, India is 1.3 billion people. And I think every fourth or fifth person who enters into a job starting a few years from now will be an Indian. So I don't see any sort of negatives there. I think I'm quite bullish on the way this country is going to go. We hopefully we'll get over this election phase, and before that, hopefully the government will sing their proper song and bring out some good policy changes and solid ones, and things will come for the better. That's what I think.
I'll close this interview with a question on a more personal note. You're very fond of poetry. How would you sum up the state of India at this point of time?
I'd quote Iqbal. I won't use his exact words because some of them probably can't be said on your channel. Iqbal said, "Ye Angrez theek log nahi hai." Of course, theek log was another set of words. "Inhone hame jamhuriyat di." For some of us who don't understand, democracy. पर इन्होंने ये नहीं बताया कि इसमें सिर्फ गिनती होती है, वजन नहीं. Basically, what he said was, this is the national poet of Pakistan, and that time it was undivided India. I think it was 1920 or 1919 when he wrote this couplet. He said, these English are not good people. They've given us a system called democracy. What they haven't explained to us in this system, people are only counted, not weighed. I think that's the problem, and the good part of India.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Luthra. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.